Welcome back to another insightful tutorial. My name is Ayomide, and in today's tutorial I would be sharing how I cut and sew these cargo pants or combat pants. I use denim material for this particular trouser, and if this is something you're interested in learning, then this video is for you. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, kindly click on the subscribe button below and let us jump right into this tutorial. To begin this tutorial, this is the fabric I made use of. It is a denim material or jean material. First thing first, I'm going to be folding this fabric into two, and that is because I'll be drafting the trouser, the cargo pant, directly on the fabric. I have finally folded my fabric into two. I also marked out a line at the topmost part, and this is where all of my measurements would be taken from. The first measurement I will be placing is my crotch depth, and I'm accounting for my waistband allowance of 1.5 inch. Next, I'll be marking my crotch depth of 11 inches. Normally my crotch depth is 10, but I added an extra 1 inch since this is going to be a high waist trouser for me. So I'm just going over to mark that. Next, I'm marking 24 inches as my waist to knee, and I'll be marking the full length of this trouser as 43 inches. Moving on my crotch line right here, I'll be marking a quarter of my hip measurement, 9 inches. I'll just place it down there. Next, I'll be marking my crotch extension. I'm going for 1.5 inch. On the waistline, I'll be taking out 1 inch from a quarter of my hip measurement. So I'll just mark 8 inches right there. And I did this to have a slanted line for the crotch area. Next, I'll be drawing in my crotch curve this way. After I was done, the next thing I did was to get the midpoint of the entire measurement I have on the crotch line. I'll also place that midpoint measurement on the knee line and also on the full length line. This would help to balance out our other measurements. On the crotch line, I'm placing a quarter of my tie round measurement on either side of the midpoint that I have marked. On the knee line, because this is going to be a cargo pants, I don't want it to be fitted. I'll just deduct about half an inch from the measurements that I have on my crotch line and mark it on the knee line. You could also use the exact measurement if you want it to be baggy, but I just want mine to taper down a little bit. After connecting, moving on to the ankle, the full length, I'll be deducting half inch from what I have on the knee line and I'll place it on the full length line. So whatever measurements you use depends on how baggy you want this to be. You can decide to use your tie round measurement all through, or you can taper yours down just like I did. After I was done, it is now time to work on the waist area. From the crotch line, I'll be marking a quarter of my waist measurement. There is no dart, and then I'll be creating my hip curve this way. So guys, I'm just going on to cut as I am done with the front. You can see that this pattern is very simple to draft. I am done cutting and this is what the front is looking like. You would notice that I added half an inch to the waist area as the allowance along the waist area. It is now time to work on the back. To work on the back, I have also folded the fabric into two and I have placed my front on it. This is me here making sure that it is well placed. Next thing, I am highlighting the crotch area at the center back. and I'll be raising the waistline by 1 inch for the back as we do always. I would also be adding an extra allowance of about 1.5 inch towards the center back in this manner. After that, I'm going to be highlighting the front crotch, and I'll be coming down by half an inch for the back crotch. And on the back crotch, I'll be marking an extra 2.5 inch. Next, I'll be creating my crotch line. After creating the crotch, I will also be rolling my back waistline. Moving on, the next thing I'll do is to drop the front waistline by 1 inch towards the crotch line in this manner. I'll trim off the excess I have on the front waistline. So the back waistline is always higher than the front. So guys, to proceed, I'll be placing an extra 2 inch to the knee line and 2 inch to the ankle line. This extra 2 inch would serve as my side seam allowance. I really don't need much. Half an inch is enough for this trouser that I'm working on. I'm connecting all of my lines together, after which I'll proceed to cut this out. I am done cutting, and this is what my back is looking like. So guys, moving on, I will need to draft out the pockets for the front, because this trouser is going to be having an outer pocket on in the front. So to do that, I'll be coming downward by the length of the pocket, and I want it to be 11 inches. Next, I'll be marking a wideness of 6 inches. I would roll a line across and also connect it to the waist. Also, I'll need to determine the pocket opening, and I'm marking 1.5 inch from the side and 6 inches downward as the depth. I would roll a line across in this manner. I just want to make sure that my hand can fit in properly into the pocket. So I dropped it by half an inch. I'll come in by 1 inch and roll a slanted line. This pattern I have created, I'm going to be cutting it out on my jean fabric, because I'll be sewing this pocket on top of my front pattern for the trouser. So this is what I've gone ahead to do. You can see I've gone ahead to cut out the exact pattern of the pockets, and I added half an inch allowance all around to enable me stitch on top of the fabric. What I'll do is just to proceed to iron the allowance down to enable easy sewing. I did likewise for the other panel of my trouser. I have ironed the allowance down as I explained earlier. So what I'll do is proceed to my sewing machine and do a top stitch of this pocket on the front part of this trouser. I would also ensure that I stitch down the allowance on the pocket opening. After sewing down the pocket, this is what it is looking like. So I think this is what we call a patch pocket, if I'm correct, because you patch this pocket to the right side of your fabric. It is now time to work on the zipper, and I've got those two fabric pieces here, the shield and the zipper fly. I would be illustrating this directly on my sewing machine, and that is because I did not fix this the normal way we usually fix a zipper to our trouser. Fixing a zipper to your jean material is different, and so you would want to see this part of this tutorial. So guys, I have the left side of the front here, and I have my shield here, and this is the zip I'll be using. What I'll do is to place the shield on the crotch area and stitch it down. After sewing it down, I'll trim off the excess thread, flip it over in this manner, and you see, and then do a top stitch. After that, I would place my zipper on the shield, making sure that the right side of the zipper is facing the shield, and I'll sew it down towards the right side, towards this side that I'm tapping on. So guys, I had to change my sewing foot. I took off the presser foot and I'm using one of the zipper foots that I have. After sewing, I'll flip the shield inward this way, you can see, and I'll be sewing in that curve that our trousers normally have. You can decide to use a chalk to draw out the curve to make it easy, and I'll just do a top stitch of the curve around that area. Once I'm getting close, I would flip the other end of the zipper upward so that I don't stitch on the zipper. I went ahead to run another stitch of the same curve so that we'll be having two lines. After I was done, this is what it looks like. You can see. Next, I picked up the other fabric piece and I placed it underneath in this manner, and I went on to sew the other part of the zipper on it. Moving on, I picked up the second part of the front, folded in the zipper area, the crotch area of the front a little bit, placed it on the zip area, making sure that the waistline matches up appropriately. Then I did a top stitch up until the end of the zipper. As I was close to the zipper, I created a notch where the zip ends, continued with the stitch, and when I got to where I had my notch, I flipped my fabric upward and continued with my top stitch. This is what it looks like after I was done. You can see that this end is looking well sewn. So what I will do next is to place this part of my crotch. I'll place it right on top of the part I just finished sewing, and I'll be doing a top stitch. So you see that this is very different from the way we normally attach our zipper to the trouser. So you can pin this down to facilitate easy sewing, but I'll just go on and do a top stitch right there. I'm taking this gently. I made sure my top stitch cut across the curve that we drew, that we sew in rather. Next, I did another round of top stitch, so I am having two lines of stitch right there. If you check your jean trouser at home, you would realize that this stitch is most likely there. So guys, this is what my zipper area is looking like. I have trimmed off the excess at the waist, and this is what the end of the crotch is also looking like. It looks so neat, though not 100% perfect, but I love the way it came out. The next thing I will do is join the front and the back together along the sides only for now, and I'm going to be using a French seam for this. Don't worry, I'll be explaining to us how to do that. But first thing first, I'll just go on and join them together. After that, this is what it is looking like. So to do a French seam, as I said, I will need to trim off one part of the seam allowance. To do the French seam, I will be folding the other part I did not trim over the part that I trimmed, and I will do a top stitch. This ensures that you have a clean finishing. You find this most times on jean trouser or on shirts. I've gone ahead to sew for this part. You can see me here trimming off the excess thread, and this is what it looks like. So I'll go on and sew the part I just illustrated, and this is what it is looking like. I love how clean this thing is looking. Honestly speaking, I loved it. It is now time to work on the pockets, because that's the whole essence of the cargo pant, right? So I've drafted one part, the pockets for one side. I'll be illustrating with the other side right here. So guys, for the pocket, I will be marking about 21 inches above the ankle. You want to make sure you take this measurement on your body, and it is exactly where you want your pocket to be. And that is my seam line on the side. And next I'll be taking 3.5 inches on either side of the seam line. This ensures that my pocket is centrally placed. Next, I would be marking a height of 6 inches. I want my pocket to be 6 inches high. I would rule them across, join all the points together. After that, I will be creating the pocket flap. For the flap, it's going to be 1 inch above the pocket. The wideness will be the same thing, 7 inches. And here I'm making sure that it is 3.5 inches on either side. So guys, the flap will be fixed on that line while the main pocket will be fixed here. I'm not going to be putting an additional pocket there, but you can go ahead and do whatever it is that you want. That is the whole essence of a cargo pant. You can have as many pockets as you want. I have gone ahead to cut out the fabric pieces that I'll be using for the pocket and the flap, and I ensure that I added allowance. I also cut out the flap on fold. A quick illustration, I'll be folding in one end of the pocket. This would serve as the opening, right? Then I would be top stitching the other end using half an inch allowance to stitch it down on the trouser. So guys, a quick tip here, I would advise you to iron your half an inch downward. This just makes it very easy when you want to sew. As for the flap, I would be sewing it on reverse, and that is because I want to have a contrast on the trouser. I'll stitch it down on both ends. So I'll go ahead and do this and show us what to do next. So guys, I am done ironing. This is the pocket body. I've gone ahead to iron down the allowance by the side, and I've got the flap also. I sew in the flap on reverse. I've also stitched down the allowance for the pocket opening. So what I'll do is to place this on the pocket area and do a top stitch all around. I will also be doing likewise for the flap, and it will be placed in this manner. I'll repeat likewise for the other pocket opening too. This is what the pocket is looking like after I was done stitching it down. I run 2 stitch lines just to create a sort of design, and I love the contrast that the flap is giving this trouser. To proceed, I will then join it down along the crotch area, placing the front against the back. I would measure out my waist allowance and mark out the seam allowance I have left there. I would also mark out my hip allowance and stitch this all the way down. After I am done sewing in the crotch, I'll also sew in the inseam, and I'll be showing us what this looks like before fixing in my waistband. So guys, at this point, I have joined the inseam together and the back crotch together. I have not fixed my waistband. I also did a thin here. I just fixed a flap here. There is no pocket opening whatsoever, just to create a design. I don't want to have too much pockets. I don't know why. I think I'm comfortable with the one along the waist and the one around my thigh area. But if you want more pockets, please go ahead and fix as many pockets as you want. At this point, I've not fixed the waistband, so just go on and cut out my waistband, fix it, and show us the outcome. And guys, this is what my cargo pants is looking like. I love the outcome. I love the fact that it's not so baggy. It suits my style. If you want something very baggy, please feel free, go ahead and make it as big as you want. I also love the contrast that the flap gave this cargo pants. I love the fact that I went for it. I was doubting if it was going to fit or not, but I can see here that it fits in perfectly. If you found this tutorial helpful, please give it a huge thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, kindly click on the subscribe button, turn on your notification, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Goodbye and stay blessed.